Yeah, yeah. No, I want to talk about insurance because I've grown as I have gotten a little gray hair and so on, and I've had kind of a long experience with insurance, and I think that it's appropriate in a political sense to talk about it. When I was, I guess, 20 years old, I worked at a parking garage, and a guy came by to sell insurance, life insurance. And I thought, well, I'm never going to die, so what would be the point of life insurance? And then, of course, I asked him the key question, which is, who would the beneficiary be? And he actually suggested my parents. And I thought, no. The money transfer is not going to get reversed. It goes from parents to me, not the other way around. Well, then I get married, we have some kids, and my wife, not knowing that I'm immortal, says we've got to get insurance. And so, now I never agreed that it made sense to get insurance, but as people who are married probably know, I just went along. And so we pay the premiums, we've got the life insurance. But something's happened in the last few years. I've realized that maybe, just possibly, I am mortal. It is possible that I could die, and I do want to take care of my kids. And then it occurred to me that I'm really not that worried if something happened to me, in all seriousness, that my kids' lives would suffer for lack of funds. Part of that is that I think, you know, money isn't everything. I have an extended family, my wife's certainly very capable, and that they would not suffer in any real sense from a lack of money, even if I didn't have life insurance. Now, I haven't canceled the policy. I'd rather they have money than not. But I began to think about what I would really like to see them have if I wasn't around. And in fact, it occurred to me that even if I am around, what worries me about the future for my kids is not money, but freedom. Because I can certainly see a time in the future in which they do not have, no matter how much money they have, they do not have the kind of opportunity and the kind of freedom to live their lives in the way that they want to live them. And to me, that's what it's all about. As a parent, that's what I want for them, is choice and freedom and the ability to do what they want to do. And I think that we're beginning to lose that. You know, I know when I was first involved in the Libertarian Party years and years ago, you'd hear the phrase, liberty in our lifetimes. And I think maybe as we've become seasoned, we realize that we may not get liberty in our lifetime. But we certainly don't want to get tyranny, out-and-out totalitarianism in our lifetime. And so I really want to know what I can do, where I can go to get an insurance policy that will pay out not money, but freedom. Where do you go to get that kind of policy? And it occurs to me that right here tonight is such a place. You guys probably know all kinds of other places, and I'm sure you go there with really this in mind. You may have never thought about it this way, but it's why we do what we do. It's why you fight battles, because every time we do, every time we stand up against a small tyranny or a big one, we are paying another premium in that insurance policy. And for my kids, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, some people might object and say, you know, this is pessimistic thinking. You know, the world's going to end tomorrow. Tyranny's on our doorstep. It's apocalyptic attitude that sometimes we hear. But I'd like to just submit a number of things that have happened in recent times, recent days, and ask you if this isn't a sign that something's wrong. One of the first things that occurs to me is the New York City trans fat ban. And I do a radio commentary called Common Sense. We send it out by email. It's a daily program. It's a couple minutes long. There's a sign-up sheet here if you haven't signed up. Would love to send it to you. It's short, sweet, to the point, smart aleck, everything you'd want. I, of course, made a lot of fun of the trans fat ban. And in fact, every day there's stuff in the newspaper that's easy to make fun of. And this is that kind of thing. And then recently, I got another easy commentary out of the bill in Mississippi. It was a bill that was introduced that said that restaurants, if they serve people that the health department deemed were obese, could lose their license. Now, this got enough play on the internet and around the country that they withdrew the bill in embarrassment. But I submit to you, is it likely that New York City will end that, and that this thing in Mississippi is the last we'll hear about it? Or is it more likely that this will spread all over the country, and then 10 years from now, we'll be told all kinds of things that we can or cannot put in our mouth? That, to me, it's funny, it's cute, we get to make jokes, but in another sense, it's really not funny at all. Look at the eminent domain issue. Now, this is not one of these things where, geez, the majority got it wrong. You know, 52% is in favor of government taking people's land, stealing it, and giving it to some other private entity. This is a 90-10 issue, and I say 90-10. Actually, the poll after the Kelo decision showed 92% of the people opposed to that decision. 92%, and there were some undecided. I believe it was 6% that approved it. So apparently the League of Cities and Municipalities, it makes up about 6% of the public. That is a sign that something serious is wrong, and partly because not only would the Supreme Court make a decision that 92% of the people just cannot fathom how they came to that conclusion, but in recent years there have been some fixes, mostly Band-Aids. Mostly ways to kind of address the issue, but not really stop the stealing of people's property so that a developer can get some cheap property and so that politicians who are supposed to work for us can get more tax dollars to spend. Jose Padilla. He was convicted ultimately, but when he was arrested, George Bush said he was a bad man. And he was a bad man because he was alleged to have been involved in a plot to create a dirty bomb. Now, a dirty bomb that sprays radioactive material all over a city is a really terrible thing. So if he were guilty of that, that's a really serious offense. But how do you know if somebody's guilty of that or not without having a trial? We have, and take away Guantanamo and take away certain things that have happened overseas, which I happen to think are not right. This is an obvious case of an American citizen who was denied his rights, not for a week, but for years, because the President of the United States says he's a bad man. And what stops that from happening again and again and again? This is serious. We talk about torture now. That's a debate in society. I've written several articles about it. In fact, I wrote a Common Sense about it. I got a tremendous amount of feedback, that positive and negative. This is an open debate. And one of the points I made is, if we can torture terrorists today, they will torture terrible criminals tomorrow. And the next day, they will be torturing our kids and our grandkids. It will come unless we can beat this. Unless the idea that our government can torture people is defeated soundly. My kids and my grandkids are going to be at risk of being tortured by a government that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Patrick Henry created. And there is something sick and wrong about that.